Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, well, it's just really good to see folks. Yeah, great to see so many of you. And there's a few screens. And to be with you. Some of you I might know already from different places in the NVC world and experiences there. Um, yeah, and as um, Iris and Jürgen shared, we've really in the last few years especially had some really deep connections between us and this IIT we were at together, and Jurgen and I go way back, and it's I'm really just so happy that we're doing this, and I think it's going to be really wonderful. I just think that the synergy of what we're planning to offer together, I'm really excited about it, and I just love working with Jurgen and Iris. So, and I think people will feel that too, how much we enjoy each other and can kind of sync up with each other and really and sort of flow with each other in really lovely ways. So, looking forward to all that. Um, and yeah, for those that aren't very familiar with me or my work, I'll share a few words about that, and then invite a little sharing if anyone wants about conflict in your life or conflict in the larger world, which if you're paying at all attention to what's happening in the social political realm of things, there's a lot going on here in the US, especially uh, with what's happening, but I think in Germany and other places quite a bit more than ever. So conflict is very up, and that's what I've chosen to focus on with NVC. I started with NVC about 25 or so, maybe a little more years ago. Worked very closely with Marshall for quite a while, and then uh, Marshall Rosenberg, founder of NBC, and then in 2002, I started working with this friend colleague Ike Lassiter, and we started developing this body of work. Really, we decided to focus on NVC and mediation, like conflict, and how to and often people are drawn to NVC because of conflict in some way. It's very natural, like way people come to the work. They're having some kind of difficulties in their life, and they want NVC as this powerful, way to address that. But there is a difference, really. People who specialize in how to work with conflict, how to mediate conflict. And over time, as Ike and I worked together, we started developing not only how do you be a third person between two people helping mediate a conversation, but the work just grew and grew about like all the preparation to help people prepare for a mediated process. And then also, the work grew even more than that to how do you mediate your own life? Like, so one thing is how do you help other people with conflict in some way, and you can help people like two or more people through a difficulty, but also just one on one. That's I call conflict coaching. So the work started to grow around conflict coaching and as well as mediating between people, and then the work grew even more over time to how do people take that basic approach, combining NVC and mediation, a mediation framework, and apply it to our own lives. How do we mediate between ourselves and others? How do we be our own mediator between ourselves and others? How do we mediate even internally between the parts of ourselves? And some of you might be familiar with the work of internal family systems that's becoming very popular and well known now. It comes out of the trauma healing field, but that yeah, Ike and I learned about that many years ago and started incorporating it into when internal mediation started to become a thing that we put into our training. How do you mediate the parts of self? And we got one of the sources, or the biggest source of inspiration for that was Dick Schwartz and internal family systems, and that's continued to be a pretty core part of the training. But more generally, just how to be how to use these frameworks and skills to navigate our own experience of conflict, inner and outer, and then also how to help other people and support other people with conflict. So that's a bit of the journey with the work, and it started just going throughout the US some, and then we started getting invited to other countries, and we've done a lot of work all over the world with this now what we call Mediate Your Life as the whole body of work. And I like to think of it as more recently as being a guide, being a guide on the journey of conflict. And the conflict is can feel very scary and intimidating, and we want to get away from it often, or it's just very distressing and unpleasant, right? And for good reason, because it can be, as we know, right? It can be even dangerous, literally. But often at least relationships can fall apart, and there can be a lot of hurt and pain. So, but what I like to say, it's like that if we have not only the skills, like nonviolent communication skills, but we have a structure, some kind of container that can help us kind of hold the fiery energy of conflict. And we have process, we have like steps we know we can follow to kind of navigate in the storminess and rugged terrains of conflict, um, then we can be successful. And we can some I think conflict is it's kind of a cliche in a way, but it's so true that conflict is this can be this kind of portal into possibilities happening that wouldn't happen otherwise, right? That conflict has this energy, this potential for something that wants to get some new thing that wants to get created by the differences that are clashing, or even the pain and the hurt that's coming because of the conflict. And there's something to be healed. Yeah, there's a healing that can happen. There's a new synthesis of differences that can emerge into some new creation, new possibilities that is just wouldn't happen without the conflict, right? So conflict, the idea that it's natural, it's how I think it's how life works, right? It's how evolution on our planet has worked. It's how water came about between hydrogen and oxygen, yeah? These differences coming together in new ways, yeah? But it can be quite challenging, as we know, right? When that's happening to us, it can be rough, right? Or when we're in it. But again, if we have the right tools, it's really, really doable, and we get more confident about it. We don't have to freak out about conflict. We can be like, okay, yeah, not fun usually, but we could feel that trust and that confidence that yeah, there are these skills we can develop and rely on. There's this kind of containers we can hold. There's process. So that's what I devoted my whole life to. Oh, yeah, so many years now. And I love this work. I love sharing this work. I love doing this really deep work with people around conflict. And another piece of that's been integrated from fairly early on, but especially for me more so in the recent number of years has been mindfulness. And I, Jurgen and Iris and I really share that, deep practice around that and how to integrate that with NVC. And for me, it's like an essential, like to really use the language of NVC. I find that the mindfulness of NVC is equally, if not more important. And I like to think of the observation, feeling, need, request components, those core components of NVC, as not just about language. Yeah, I mean, language is so powerful to how it shapes our consciousness, our experience, but it is there's a whole nother way to use those components that I think almost more like those are levels or layers of human experience. They're not just mechanical steps of communication, which when I think people practice NVC that way, they get into trouble. It becomes too techniquey, too rigid, too kind of formulaic and static. And there's a way to use those that are more like these doorways, these portals into realms of human experience. And for me, each of those levels, observation, feeling, need, request, is a way to be mindful at those different levels, to practice a different quality of awareness and understanding kind of the overall map of consciousness that conflict. It's about how do we relate to conflict? How do we relate to human connection and communication? So, anyways, that's a bit of the journey I've been on with this work. And even as I mentioned, kind of the trauma work as well, how that gets integrated because of conflict often brings up those deeper wounds, those deeper pains that we carry. So how all that kind of comes together has been my passion and love over these years. Yeah, so I think that's kind of a lot. I might have talked a little faster than I normally do. I felt myself getting kind of quite energized as I just spoke about that. So hopefully you could follow me okay. How about I just pause for a moment and just let all that sink in, see if there's anything else to share with you on this sort of big picture level. Yeah, okay. So what's coming to me is to say a little bit about like a little bit more specific now about this workshop that Iris and Jurgen and I are going to do together. And what of all of that, because this what I just described to you has become quite a large body of work actually. And there's two levels of it. There's the as I say, there's the level of it if you want to more, whether it's professionally or kind of formally or just various ways you want to help and support other people with conflict, or another whole track is how you support yourself. So there's a lot of material that I do year programs with this work, and so what we're going to do in these days together of the workshop in a few weeks is a focus on um, a few of the mm, kind of foundational aspects of my work. So one is how to relate to conflict in a way that's being a guide for other people. But that there's so many ways you could do that, right? You might be in a mediator role or a conflict coaching role with people, or you just might be in your role at work or you're in the family or something. How do you help others who are in conflict? So that'll be a focus of what I offer, just in ways that are applicable on many, many levels, how to how to work with supporting other people who are in conflict. Um, but in the process of doing that, there'll be a lot of being able to work on your own. You can bring the way I'm going to set up the practices in the workshop will be very much an invitation to bring challenges in your own life, so you can really have that deep personal growth work as part of the learning. So you're kind of learning how you apply it to yourself in your own world, and a lot of what Jurgen and Iris will be offering will be also adding to that kind of inner dimension and working with our own relationship to challenge and conflict, and then how also though how to support others, how to help others. um, and it'll be both mediating, how do you mediate between people and how do you experience I call the three chairs. Yeah, there's a three-chair model that's like at the heart of this work, and it's the two perspectives in conflict and then the third side that's holding the two. And in the practices, there's a chance for you to play in all of these roles, like it called a triad practice, where you're moving from self to other to this mediating empathic presence. And what I found over the years is the depth of learning and experiencing and kind of those healing transformative qualities. What happens in that triad practice can be really wonderful. So that'll be a kind of a core part of the learning. And then how do you work with people individually to support them around a conflict? And then also how do you work with hurt and healing hurt and reconciliation when hurt is part of the conflict. So that all being said, um, to give you a little taste experientially of it, I would like to do some kind of demonstration with somebody, if possible, if it works out today. And I like to start with just if something people want to share. Maybe you could share anything that's come up